In today's episode, Russia is one step away from victory. Most Ukrainians want to surrender. The Iron Curtain, the European Union cancels visa-free travel for Ukraine. The Kremlin is defending traditional values. The West continues to promote LGBTIQ agenda in the Ukrainian Army. Our analytical team at Detector Media is on constant watch, tracking the spread of the boldest fakes from Kremlin propaganda. I'm Vadym Miskyi, and for the next 10 minutes I'll guide you through the key facts. Let's get started. Most Ukrainians want to surrender. This fake is being promoted by Kremlin propagandists. Supposedly 30% of our fellow citizens are ready to do anything for peace. Russian media have once again twisted the information. The case was investigated by analysts of the VoxCheck project. The Democratic Initiatives Foundation, the Center for Political Sociology and civil network Opora conducted a survey which was cited by the propagandists. The report says that 30% of Ukrainians want the war to end as soon as possible under any circumstances, but only 8% of respondents are actually ready to make any concessions. This means that surrender is out of the question. Western partners support Ukraine in its desire to preserve its territorial integrity.
And you continue to fight fiercely for that independence. President Putin thought he could take it away from you, but he cannot. The Ukrainian leadership, your military forces, and all of the Ukrainian people, you demonstrate extraordinary determination, resilience, and bravery every single day. You inspire the world, and you inspire me and all my colleagues in NATO personally. Here at NATO, allies stand with you in this fight for your country's survival and freedom. Our support is unwavering, and you can count on us to stand by you for as long as it takes. I am proud of the support NATO allies are providing Ukraine. Billions of dollars of modern military equipment, fuel, medical supplies, and much more besides, as well as financial and humanitarian assistance. At our NATO summit in July, Ukraine took a big step closer to NATO. When allies agree and conditions are met, Ukraine will join the NATO alliance.
We are ready to exchange Russian Belgrade for NATO membership. This is how Volodymyr Zelensky answered the question about territorial concessions for Ukraine's memberships in the alliance.
Територія готові обміняти Білград на наше членство в НАТО. Дякую.
Volodymyr Zelensky ruled out the possibility of exchanging anything for Ukrainian territory. This is how he commented on the possibility of peace talks with Russia. Let me remind you that Stein Jensen, the director of the private office of the NATO Secretary General, suggested that Ukraine could become a member of the alliance in exchange for giving up part of its territory. He later called his words a mistake. Official Paris congratulated Ukraine on its Independence Day with a map without Crimea. This fake was spread by pro-Russian media. The evidence was a photo of a billboard reportedly installed in France. It shows a map of Ukraine without Crimea with the colors of national flag reversed. This is a fake. Fact-checkers from the Stop Fake project investigated the story. They found out that the billboard, which does not show a map of Ukraine, is actually in Copenhagen. This is an advertisement for a Danish company. Emmanuel Macron has once again emphasized that France does not recognize the annexation of Crimea.
On 24 February 2022, Russia moved to the next level with a decision to launch a large-scale war of aggression against Ukraine. Since then, the Ukrainian people directly suffer the dramatic and unacceptable consequences of this decision on a daily basis. I want to say this once more before you enter to your side very clearly. France does not recognize either the annexation by Russia of Ukrainian territories or the result of the sham election that were held. Dear Volodymyr, dear friends, more than 500 days since the beginning of the war, and as the Ukrainian people tirelessly continue their fight for the defense of their territory and their sovereignty, I wish to reiterate here today that you have France's full support. I wish to attest to the unwavering solidarity of the French people in the face of the violence and disruption endured every day by the Ukrainian civilians population, whose homes, hospitals and schools are being targeted by strikes and bombed by the Russian army. We continue to condemn Russia's actions, which constitute war crimes.
On its Twitter page, the French Foreign Ministry congratulated Ukraine on the holiday and expressed its determination to support the fight against the aggressor. Western partners once again emphasized Crimea is Ukraine.
Russia's aggression against Ukraine began when President Putin invaded Crimea and tried to redraw Ukraine's borders by force in 2014. Russia militarized the peninsula, seized the parliament, orchestrated a sham referendum, the blueprint for its attempted annexations in eastern and southern Ukraine last year. And since then, the Kremlin has subjected Crimeans to a campaign of brutalization and repression. It has detained, tortured, and disappeared journalists, activists, religious and political leaders. It's destroyed independent media outlets, wielded pro-Russia propaganda to turn neighbor against neighbor, and attempted to militarize Ukrainian children at Crimean so-called summer camps. Moscow continues to target Crimean Tatars, raiding mosques and homes, criminalizing peaceful groups, detaining civic activists in Russian prison colonies, conscripting young and old to fight their own homeland. Crimea is Ukraine. We do not, we will not recognize Russia's illegal attempted annexation.
By creating such fakes, Kremlin propagandists are trying to discredit Ukraine's Western partners. The European Union is cancelling visa-free travel for Ukraine. This is yet another fake by Kremlin propaganda. The introduction of a special permit, the European Travel Information and Authorization System, supposedly means the end of visa-free travel. According to the conclusion of Vox Check, the introduction of the European Travel Information and Authorization System, a system of long-term permits for crossing the EU border, does not mean that visa-free travel will be cancelled. It will come into effect only in 2024, not only for Ukraine, but also for other non-EU countries. European partners are fully supporting Kyiv in its fights against Russia.
Every day, Ukrainians are fighting with courage for their freedom and independence, for democracy and for the values we all stand for. At the same time, Ukraine is transforming itself with key reforms and is advancing on its path to become a member of the European Union. This is the future of Ukraine. And we at the European Union, we stand with Ukraine. The European Union stands with Ukraine. And we will stand as long as it takes. Slava Ukraini.
By spreading such fakes, propagandists only demonstrate their own insignificance. After all, they are not allowed to enter Europe. And traditionally, LGBTQ rights are on the propagandist agenda. Here's what they have been posting, I quote, "The West continues to promote the LGBTQ message in the Ukrainian Army. In Kharkiv, two lesbians, a servicewoman and an activist, imitated a wedding at the behest of the Kharkiv Pride. This event did indeed take place, but the propaganda interpretation is wrong." Representatives of the Kharkiv Pride organization explained that this was indeed a performance that was intended to draw attention to the lack of marriage equality for all couples. However, the message that it is the West that is promoting the LGBTQ agenda in the Ukrainian army in this way is a misinterpretation of the facts. The Kremlin's attempts to exploit the so-called traditional values are a failing strategy. After all, Russia has already found itself almost completely isolated from the civilized world. Stay with us to avoid becoming a victim of Kremlin propaganda. Ukraine will win. Have a good day.